Well, howdy ho, everybody. So I just wrapped up trying to recreate the Skyrim Iron Dagger, and I'm gonna be real with you guys, it did not go to plan. The only thing I managed to salvage from today is my very own Mr. Hanky the Christmas Poo. How we got to this point is a long tale of trials, tribulations, new attempts, foolhardy attempts, miscalculations and recalculations. I tried everything to get this dagger to work. It seems that cast iron does not want to be worked with. So, Mr. Hanky and I are going to acquaint ourselves whilst you guys get to enjoy watching how we reach this point. So sit back and watch my failures.
Looking to defend yourself or deal some damage? Hello friends, and no, I'm not going to do Nord Blacksmith this whole episode. Who wants to do that? Welcome back. Today I am going to be embarking upon that long-anticipated journey of forging my very first Skyrim weapon. The goal is to start simple, way back at the beginning of the skill tree, when you first meet Advor, that blacksmith in Riverwood, who first teaches you how to make a leather helmet and an iron dagger. Now, I'm not going to be doing the leather helmet because there's no anvil involved in that, there's no hot steel, and there's no smashing. So I'm starting with the iron dagger. It is the smallest and most simple of all Skyrim weapons. You will often find this on the bodies of downed necromancers and dark wizards that you will slay on your quest through the lands of Skyrim. And honestly, I can't imagine ever using it unless you are absolutely forced to. It is abysmal. It has terrible damage. It's kind of a little bit pointless. But it is where we must start, because as far as I'm concerned, if I'm going to play this by the rules, I can only work in iron at the moment. So, this here is a 1 meter long piece of iron. It weighs about 20, maybe 20 kilos. I haven't done the math, but it is thick. It is about, I don't know, it's about as wide as my eye socket, whatever that ends up being. 2.5, 3, my math is terrible. Either case, this is the biggest, thickest piece of material that I've ever had to work. So the very first thing I'm going to do is lop off a piece of iron. I really don't know how much I'm going to need. Since it is so thick, I won't need much length because it's going to flatten out and stretch out lengthways. It's going to be a beast to work down, especially without any sort of power hammer equipment. It is just going to be me swinging at this thing, but I believe I can do it. So I've lopped off this small volume, well, I say small, but it's quite hefty, and I'd say, yeah, that's the weight of a dagger blade. Probably a little bit excess. But I've got this, and it's about half the length of the actual blade. And I'm guessing that as I thin this out, it will double in length, and then I'll also have enough to stretch out and form the tang. So this lump is going to become the blade of this dagger. And then I'm going to get a smaller piece to act as the crossguard, and this teeny tiny little capping piece up the top there, that's going to be done by yet another piece. And I could probably just cut something that's about, a centimetre thick and then just spread it out, because since this is circular and that capping piece is just a round bit that flops over the sides and holds the timber in place, that's a really good starting point. So I'll just cut a centimetre piece for that, thin it out a little bit and then spread it over the sides. The tang itself, I could probably use maybe half this amount of iron for that as well. So the forge is heating up behind me. I'm going to chuck this in, get it nice and hot, because this iron is quite brittle. When I was cutting it off the bar, I only needed to cut most of the way through, and then one smack with a hammer, it just came off and almost dropped it on my toe. Oh, and just to clarify, I've never worked with iron before. This is going to be a brand new experience, but as with all things that I endeavour upon, how hard could it possibly be? Sad. Alright. So I'm not going to touch any of this at the moment because I've basically created an incredibly hot pile of metal dirt. What I have learnt today is that cast iron under heat and with hammer strikes kind of behaves like wet sand, which I certainly wasn't expecting in the slightest. So I'm looking at this thinking, this is a problem, a severe problem. I do not think the Dragonborn had to deal with this. So, back to the drawing board, kids. I'm gonna go and do a little bit of thinking, a little bit of research, and come up with a solution for this particular issue. If I cannot come up with a solution, dare I say it, I may have to cheat and use steel, but it just won't feel the same, would it? So, give me some time to think. I'm gonna come up with a solution, and we're gonna work through it. So I've done a bit of looking into it, a couple of more experimental whacks, and it turns out that the iron is kind of turning to liquid in the center. It's getting that hot. The last time I pulled it out of the furnace, it hit the ground and splashed everywhere. I had to jump back. So, it is dangerous times here on the Sit Up Sam channel. I'm taking all due precaution as much as I can, but I'm working with stuff that I really don't know what's going on. So, I'm thinking of discarding it all at the moment, taking what I've learned and restarting. So I'm gonna get another big piece, and rather than hitting it really hard, I'm gonna get it incredibly hot, almost to the point where it is melting, and then I'm gonna bring it to the anvil very carefully and gently hit it. Hopefully, getting all of those liquid components to move and meld together. Try not to get any of it on me, because I can guarantee you liquid metal would not be fun today. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get it really hot, work it really slowly, hopefully turn it into one homogeneous piece, and then we can work from there. Okay, no, this is not smart. Just gentle taps. Right. And let's pop you on the anvil. No! Ah! Disaster has struck! Disaster has struck. Oh no. Alright, let's clean that up. But can I salvage it? Can I smack it at all? Alright, so I'm thinking of trying one more thing. What I've got here is a piece of galvanized steel. Now, my thought process is, the steel seems to have a higher melting point than the iron, and even though this is a very thin piece, it's about 1.5 to 2 mil thick. And it is galvanized. Obviously that galvanized layer is going to burn off in the furnace, but I'm thinking, if I can load a piece of iron into this, you know what, I may as well just use the iron that I've got laying around. So all of the bits of scrap, I'm gonna pile them into here. My thinking is, if I can heat up all of the iron in here to create a puddle of molten iron, if I can create a mold of some sort. It doesn't need to be an accurate mold. I'm just going to make a dagger shape, make it thicker than I need it to be, and then I'm going to have to take it to the grinder. What this means is the entire project changes. No longer am I able to forge it out on the anvil, which I wanted to do in the first place. This is going to be my last idea that I'm going to try before I write this entire project off, because if this doesn't work, I really don't know what else could. If I cannot melt the iron down into literally liquid and get a dagger that way, there's nothing else I can try. That'll be the most impressive thing that I can possibly do to try and make this work. Anyway, let's get molten metal. I'm leaning towards saying that this is just going to be a catastrophic disaster. All I want is for it to melt down, stay within the steel basket that I've made, and hopefully be able to pour some of it into this pathetic dirt mold that I've made. If I can get even something that is slightly the right size to be able to grind it down, this project has some hope. If not, then you've watched an entire video on how not to work with cast iron, and then hopefully you've picked something up from this, which is just don't. Just flat out, do not. But anyway, even if this does work, I'm still going to say don't do it, because everything that I'm doing right now is absurdly dangerous. Don't do this. If you've got a forge, this is not the way to do this at all. I'm just interested to see if it is slightly, if at all, possible. Time to find out. Catastrophic failure, kids. It seems it has melted through the steel as well, so this is less than ideal. Well, everyone, this has been an utter disaster. I embarked on this today to try and forge a Skyrim iron dagger, and all I've ended up with for my efforts are 2 tortured hunks of iron metal that have been melted and abused and turned to dirt and then remelted and then poured into this mass that you see before me. So I feel like this entire project is going to have to go back to the drawing board. I'm not going to be able to forge an iron dagger. I'm only going to be able to cast it, which is going to be a setup for another day. I may need to invest in some casting sand so that I can make a mold of what the dagger is going to look like, heat this up in the furnace using an actual crucible, and then I will be able to get a liquid iron that I can then pour. Because the mold itself, I did pour a little bit of iron into it, and it seemed to respond perfectly fine. It puddled where I wanted it to, and then it just took up the shape of the dirt underneath it. So that is a good sign for me being able to cast a dagger in the future, but for now, I feel as if this entire video is going to have to change direction because this isn't how to forge an iron dagger in Skyrim. This is how not to forge anything made out of iron. I've learned a lot today, and I hope that I've passed on a lot of knowledge to you through my mistakes. The bottom line of it all is don't forge with cast iron. Cast iron, you can buy it and then you can shape it, but that's about all you can do with it. So thank you very much for joining me on this learning experience, and I do hope that in the next one I will be able to come through with an iron dagger of sorts. I'm going to have to keep working at it. Ooh, it's exploding on me. As it's cooling down, it looks like maybe the steel is contracting and the oxides are staying the same size, so they're just popping off like little projectiles. Yeah, maybe I should put my glasses back on. Get off. Stay. Don't explode on me. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next video, hopefully a more successful one. Bye!
After all that effort, this is what I've got to show for it. But the real question, is it a poo or a slug?